The latest tech.
I'm Alexa. I can answer your questions.
Interviews.
And we are evolving, and we are seeing an amazing opportunity that is happening.
Accessibility.
Accessibility is one of our core values. It's even a part of our mission statement.
This is DoubleTap TV.
Welcome to DoubleTap TV. Thank you guys for being with us each and every single week. So excited to bring you this episode as we wind down the year that was in 2021. So many cool things to reflect upon. And we're going to do that again this week thanks to your help. Email us, feedback at AMI.CA. Of course, you can reach out on Twitter and all social media at DoubleTap Canada with the hashtag, which is AskDoubleTap. There's no way I can do this show each and every single week without Stephen Scott by my side. Of course, I am Marc Aflalo. Thank you guys for being here. Stephen, laptops is the topic of conversation that we're going to dive into this week. And it's fun because laptops remind me of smartphones because they are refreshed pretty much every single year. And that's thanks to obviously the components and parts getting more advanced and more exciting. But there are so many different directions we can take this with PC laptops, with Chromebooks, with MacBooks. I mean, where do you even begin?
Well, it's really simple, Mark. Throw the Chromebooks away and only discuss Mac and Windows. Surely that's the only fight in town, right?
Yeah, you would think that's the only fight in town. But you know what? We've got two guys to go head-to-head this week, but not going to go head-to-head. We've got two exciting analysts on the show this week. Rene Ritchie is going to be joining us on this week's show. He's been on the show before. He's a well-known Apple analyst. He really knows his stuff when it comes to all things Apple. And I know you're going to sit down with him and have a great conversation all about MacBooks. But put him aside for a second because, yes, Apple has a great player in this space, but on the PC side of things, that market is gigantic. When you think of companies like HP, Lenovo, and of course, Microsoft themselves with Surface hardware. So we're also going to sit down with another analyst. His name is Daniel Rubino. He is the chief editor of Windows Central, and he's going to talk to us all about the PC laptops. Now, normally I'd put these guys head to head and just let them fight and go at it, but we're going to separate them into separate rooms to see if we can get some opinions that might be the same or might differ. But here's my question to you before we take a break and go to these two gentlemen who are going to be joining us, so don't go away. I promise they are coming up. My question to you, Stephen, is when you look at the laptop space over the span of a year, a laptop is not a smartphone because people do not upgrade these every single year. So what is it that you look for in a laptop when it comes to accessibility, when it comes to using the screen reader of choice? I know you love Macs, but when it comes to getting work done, you tend to do that more on a PC.
I have been going back and forward. I mean, I used to think I was biased in this space. I don't think I am anymore. I think I'm a bit bi when it comes to this whole thing. I can't decide whether I'm Mac or I'm on the Windows side. And, you know, I joke about Chromebooks, but hey, you know, they are becoming even more accessible as well. Of course, the price point for Chromebooks is much better. Microsoft are, you know, hot in the heels on that one, which we'll talk about. But, you know, the fact is that there are so many choices out there. And when it comes to buying a new laptop, what I'm looking for, I guess, is obviously performance, but for a good price. You know, I'm not, as a blind guy, looking particularly at the amazing screens, the 4K resolutions, because to me, that's just a battery hog. You know, I want something that performs really well, that's got great battery life. I'm ideally looking for connectivity these days. That's something which I think is becoming more and more important. Instead of just hooking up to a hotspot, actually having your own connection built into the device. And of course, 5G is going to make all of that even more possible and give us even faster connections than we probably have in our own homes. So, you know, sitting in the cafe, you no longer have to connect to that dodgy Wi-Fi that's stealing all your data. You can just have your own connection that you're paying for built into the device, always on. I think those are the kind of things that you're looking for. And as we go into 2022, we're going to see even more and more options as 5G becomes more widespread. That connectivity in the device will become more widespread.
Well, let's take a quick break. Let's come back here on DoubleTap TV and let's talk to Rene Ritchie. Let's see if he is in agreement with us or if we're just talking out of our, you know. It is DoubleTap TV. He is Stephen Scott. I am Marc Aflalo. We take a quick break here on DoubleTap TV.
For more great DoubleTap TV content, visit AMI.CA/DoubleTap. This is DoubleTap TV.
We are back on Double Tap TV. Thank you guys for joining us each and every single week. We're talking all about the best laptops of 2021 this week on Double Tap TV. If you want to pipe up, let us know. Feedback at AMI.CA, of course, the email address. And on Twitter, we are at Double Tap Canada with a hashtag, which is AskDoubleTap. So as we alluded to off the beginning of the show, of course, I am Marc Aflalo with Stephen Scott. But Stephen, you are going to talk to one of our favorite Apple analysts when it comes to everything Apple, especially MacBooks this week.
Absolutely. I'm so pleased to be welcoming Rene Ritchie, the famous YouTuber and, as you say, Apple analyst, and someone who really takes the time to dig into these devices and their capabilities. Rene, it's great to have you back here on Double Tap TV.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me here.
So let's talk about the MacBooks then. And before we talk specifically about individual devices and maybe one or two of the choices that are out there, let's talk about this processor, the M1 processor, and really break this down for people who don't really understand what this means. Why is everybody so excited about a new processor inside a computer? Why does the M1 in Mac matter?
Yeah, so I guess it's because they reframe our expectations. Previously, when we were dealing with Intel chipsets on the Apple side or Intel and AMD on the Windows side, we were told, we were trained to think that you couldn't have high performance without a lot of heat, a lot of fan noise, and very little battery life. It was sort of like, we're going to put this tiny blast furnace inside your laptop. It's going to sound like a helicarrier, and it's going to throttle down. It's going to do all of these things, but you'll get a few minutes of really high performance out of it, and that's double thumbs up good. And Apple sort of came in, and instead of trying to push down these big server and PC tower chips, these big x86 compute units, the way Intel and AMD had been doing, they brought up the silicon that they'd been making for iPads and iPhones. And because iPhones and iPads were so small, they had such tiny thermal envelopes, Apple had to be really, really efficient with that silicon. But it turned out that when you're really efficient, you have high performance. It's sort of like a bonus. The better you can do things, the faster you can do things. So now they have this playground, this huge thermal envelope of a Mac. And so they're able to get equivalent performance on average, sometimes a little bit better, sometimes a little bit less, but at way, way lower power. We're talking like 30 watts for an Apple CPU as opposed to 60 more plus watts for a classic x86 CPU. So we're getting this amazing performance, but without all the heat, without all the fan noise, and with like incredible battery life.
And that's for anyone, right? I mean, it's from the base level right up to the high-end creatives. No one's left behind in this. So, we can all benefit from the power of M1, whether it's a base level Mac Mini or a MacBook Air, or maybe even a top-end MacBook Pro. Let's talk about these MacBook Pros though, because that of course is the big announcement of 2021 so far that everyone was so excited about. What is so special about these MacBook Pros, aside of course from having the ports back?
Yeah, so there's a couple reasons they're really good, and you nailed it there too. Like, they're eerily quiet and eerily cool. Previously, you got like a free space heater with every Mac or every Intel PC laptop that you bought. It would keep you warm. Your cat would come up and cuddle. If it was a Mac Mini, you could put your coffee on it, and it would stay bubbling for the rest of the day. And that's just gone. These are eerily cool and eerily quiet. It's really hard. You got to light up every compute engine on the die to get the fans to even come on, and then they don't stay on very long. So it's a real shift in terms of just how quiet they are. And especially on the MacBook Pro, it does two things, well, three things really. First, it doesn't ramp down the way that an Intel processor does. You can get it to step down eventually, but the performance that you have is the performance that you keep. And with a lot of high performance PC laptops, if you unplug them, they can't sustain that performance. They drop by half, drop by 3/4 sometimes. While the MacBook Pro chips are so efficient that you can actually take that with you and not end up with 1 hour of battery life, but keep, 8-10 hours of battery life. And sort of the last thing is that Apple is really thinking beyond just the big compute engines, just the CPU, the GPU, even the machine learning engines. They've got these dedicated rendering engines now, media engines for H.264, H.265, for ProRes. And I know that doesn't mean the same thing for everybody. There are a lot of improvements for developers as well in other areas, like the massive memory bandwidth. But for people who are doing transcoding or are rendering video, you can now press a button, and not only is it faster than ever, like 2 to 10 times faster for rendering video files, but it's not being done on the CPU or GPU at all. So like on my old Intel MacBook Pro, I'd press that export button and then everything, web browsing, using Photoshop, everything was slow as molasses for 20, 30 minutes while it rendered that file. Where on the M1 Max and the M1 Pro, it's transparent. It's all being done off the CPU core. So it's like having a spare MacBook Pro that you can do everything else with while the original one is off rendering. And that's really transformative for a workflow.
Okay, but what about those of us who don't need the power of a MacBook Pro? I mean, the MacBook Air, which I have. I've got a MacBook Air, base level, I love it. Is that enough for most people?
Yeah, it is absolutely enough. I mean, that's the sort of the benefit we have here. Apple started with the M1, which is for ultra low power Macs. And that's really from their iPad Pro division. They originally the Apple Silicon debuted in the iPad, went very quickly to the iPhone, but then Apple started making these X chips, which were the original version of the chip, like A8X, A10X, but with extra cores, extra CPU cores, extra GPU cores. And we got to the Bionic age with the A12 Bionic, where they had sort of these efficiency cores, performance cores, graphics cores. And we saw on the iPad Pro, the A12X, something very similar to what we ended up getting with the M1. And it turns out that what made an iPad feel so instantly responsive, what gave it such great battery life, works really, really well in a MacBook Air, even in the entry-level MacBook Pro, where maybe like you don't need to do a bunch of high compute stuff, but you want really snappy performance and really, really good battery life. And that's what it delivers. So anybody who does have just like what I would call like an ultralight workflow, wants to be able to take their Mac with them, even the Mac Mini case, just be able to do a bunch of stuff, but not have to deal with, or you don't want to spend any more than you need to for all the processing. It's amazing what you can achieve now, even on the entry-level models.
It's always nice to have Rene on the show. Thank you again to Rene Ritchie for taking the time to join us this week. But we need to shift gears, Stephen, and we need to go to PCs and Windows computers in particular, because there are so many of them. So stick around. This is Double Tap TV. He is Stephen Scott. I am Marc Aflalo. Our next guest is on deck. His name is Daniel Rubino. It is Double Tap TV.
For more great Double Tap TV content, visit AMI.CA/DoubleTap. This is Double Tap TV.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Double Tap TV. We were talking all things best laptops for 2021. I am Marc Aflalo with Stephen Scott each and every single week. Stephen, I'm excited because I'm trying to put Macs behind me. It's not going to happen. I know it's never going to happen, but it's something that I strive towards. I know you're trying to do the same thing, right?
I have been playing this game for so long, but I think I'm going to stick with Mac. But I guess that's why this particular conversation we've got coming up intrigues me, because the question is, if you're buying a Windows laptop, what do you buy and why?
Our next guest is the executive editor of Windows Central. He's been covering the Windows and the PC beat for quite some time. His name is Daniel Rubino, no stranger to the show. Welcome back, Daniel. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
How has the introduction of Windows 11, you think, impacted the PC market? I know it unlike on a Mac side, people tend to upgrade really quickly. On a PC side, we still see computers out there with Windows 8 on it, unfortunately, Windows XP sometimes. So has Windows 11 really, has it caught on? Are we seeing it on more and more devices? Or are people still hesitant in that space?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. I was just playing around with the Dell XPS 139310, another top laptop that still blows me away in terms of design. It's still a laptop that has been designed and iterated over the last few years. It still looks like way ahead of its time due to its super thin bezels. And I went to go see, and it qualifies for Windows 11, but they're not pushing it out to the device yet. Now you can still go get it you just go to Microsoft and you download their media creation tool and it just upgrades it. Simple. So I'm now running Windows 11 on it, but it goes to show you that they're taking a very slow staged rollout to make sure that there are no bugs and problems. As someone who covers this stuff, my job has actually been pretty easy this year, because this is one of the least problematic OS updates that Microsoft has ever done for Windows. We're just not posting a lot of stuff with people having issues. So it's a very stable operating system. It's a very simplified operating system. And that's been kind of the goal, to sort of streamline the look of it, to attract new people who need to do certain things in 2021 that maybe wasn't the focus of Windows 10 in 2015. And so, the rollout's been going well. All new hardware now ships with Windows 11, so OEMs like this angle. But there's a lot of benefits to this operating system, including smaller updates, right? It smartly updates the package now. It only targets files in the system that need to be updated instead of refreshing the whole OS. There's usability, there's stability. So, one of the controversial things is only certain hardware can run Windows 11. Stuff that basically came out in the last 2 to 3 years is almost guaranteed to get it. But what Microsoft has been able to do is sort of guarantee stability with those devices. And I put it on all sorts of PCs, and I've never had an issue running Windows 11 so far. And I think that bodes well for this update.
Let's talk about Microsoft specifically for a second, because they've done an incredible job at the hardware push over the past several years. And this year was a pretty significant one with them in terms of the new Surface Pro 8, small design changes, but really welcome, I think, to people who have been using that device for quite some time. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely, it's replaced my MacBook Pro. I can even do video editing on it and some of the audio stuff, a bit lighter than I would maybe be able to do on a MacBook Pro, but the fact that I can just take it and go is absolutely great. Now, Microsoft has always said they're building the hardware as this kind of like almost a blueprint for other companies to take a look and see how they intended it to be.
Yeah.
Do you think that mission or that goal is actually being achieved? Do we see this replicate itself across other brands?
Absolutely. So, I mentioned I've been doing this for 10 years. Going back to 2014, say if you told me here's an HP laptop, I would have cringed. All right. I mean, there was a period where netbooks, that was still recovery from the netbook era, which was pretty detrimental to the PC experience. But with Surface, Microsoft really has set the bar with engineering. And Surface is super interesting. I could talk about this for hours, but it gets a lot of attention. But in terms of actual market, it's very tiny. It's a boutique experiment, basically, to get these sort of devices out there and get the conversation going. But in terms of actually driving sales, it's very small. And that's sort of the point. It's why they're so expensive. They're not meant to push out HP, Dell, and Lenovo, the big companies, and you have Acer, Asus, and Razer as well. It's not meant to destroy them. It's meant to sort of give them a little kick. Starting in 2015, HP got really good, especially with the Spectre series started coming out and with their 360 devices. HP for me is one of the better laptop companies. I really enjoy where they've been going, where they've been innovating. But Lenovo is also doing a lot in this space. They got the Yoga series, of course, and they've been innovating with speakers as hinges. And Dell, of course, with the XPS line, it's so iconic. The Dell XPS is probably one of the most highly sold premium Windows PCs out there. Now they have the 13, they have the 15, they have the 17, which is a crazy device because it's the size of a 15. They have the XPS 13 2-in-1. And spoiler, I think they're going to have a big announcement at CES for this lineup for a new device that's coming out, I assume probably with the 12th gen Intel, which is going to allow them to do some new stuff. And so what's neat about Dell, Lenovo, and HP, they've all created excellent premium experiences. Even HP's Envy line, which is more mid-range.
I look over the past couple of years, especially during the pandemic. I think the first year of the pandemic, a lot of people were adapting. This past year, though, in 2021, as people entered this almost second year of the pandemic, we saw major innovations that I think came as a result of the pandemic. Better cameras on board, better speakers, better microphones. Do you think that was a rarity for us this past year, or do you think that every year moving forward, we're going to see that many leaps in terms of innovation, or are we just going to see more incremental stuff?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely accelerating, and you're right, but the webcam is the biggest one, right? Even, I mentioned Dell, the XPS 13, super thin bezels, looked awesome, way ahead of its time. The camera sucked. So and that was just the way that the market was going. I mean, some gaming laptops didn't even ship with a web camera because they're like, well, gamers, if they really need to do streaming, are going to buy and bring their own high-end 4K camera. That's all shifting right now. So you're seeing HP now has their Dragonfly Max, which has a 5 megapixel full HD camera, and it's a very good one. That sort of, and if cameras are your thing. You're on video calls all day. This is where Surface actually still is the king. They have the best web cameras on any devices I've used, whether that's going to be the Surface Pro 8, Surface Pro X, the Laptop Studio. They just are sort of ahead. I mean, even on Pro X, there's still this thing that's not rolled out to other devices, which has AI. It auto adjusts your eyes when you're on a video call. So normally if I'm looking at you right now, my eyes are down here, but I have to look right at the camera, but it can actually adjust that. So you're going to see more of that technology with Intel coming out as well. And I think that's where you start to see the innovation. If you notice my background, and I can say yours too, is blurred. This isn't blurred because I'm using a DSLR camera. This is just a Logitech. It's using NVIDIA's broadcast, which is using AI to do this using my graphics card. That's a huge step in terms of increasing the clarity. My microphone is also using NVIDIA broadcast. So if I clap, you're probably not going to hear it because it's being filtered out through AI. And that's sort of where I think you're going to see a lot of this technology, both in terms of software and the hardware improving as well. You know, Intel has this thing with what's called human presence detection. This is good for security reasons. If you're in front of a laptop, it can tell you're there, not through the camera, through a new type of sensor that uses a sonar type to detect a human is there. If I walk away from my device, it says, oh, there's no person here, auto locks the computer. Good for security. But then if I walk back in front of it, even with the display off, it goes, oh, there's a person there, turns the screen on, launches Windows Hello, and logs me in automatically. I haven't touched a thing. So you're going to start to see a lot of these sort of micro technologies that in of themselves is not game changing, but when you add them all up, improves the overall experience of using a computer in the modern world.
Daniel, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you to Rene Ritchie for joining us, and of course, Daniel Rubino on this week's edition of Double Tap TV. If you guys want to get involved, it's feedback@AMI.CA, and of course on Twitter, we are at Double Tap Canada with the hashtag, which is #DoubleTap. On behalf of all these guys, I am Marc Aflalo. We'll see you again next week.
Hosted by Marc Aflalo and Stephen Scott. Editing Jordan Steeves and Marc Aflalo. Voiceover Anna Vicino. Integrated Described Video Specialist Ron Rickford. Coordinating Producer Jennifer Johnson. Director Production CARA Nye. Director Programming Brian Perdue. VP Content Development and Programming John Melville. President and CEO David Errington. Copyright 2021 Accessible Media Inc.